Hello and welcome to this KeyShot Materials workshop. In this workshop I'll be focusing on the Toon material and going through all of its available settings. So you'll find the Toon material at the bottom of the materials library, and if you expand this you'll see there are subcategories in there already of some predefined Toon options. With these materials you can simply drag and drop them onto your model and you'll see it updating in real time on your screen. Like with all of the materials in the material library, if you double click on that part, it will then show you the parameters that are used to control those material options. So with your Toon material, it is a 3D block color that is then surrounded by a contour line. So the 3D block color is being driven by the color section. So if you know that the part is going to be a specific coloring, like we've got these blue and red parts within here, you can apply that via this setting. The contour color controls the line work around the outside. So again, you can manipulate what colouring you want that to be using this colour block within here. Regarding the thickness of these lines, that is controlled by the contour width. So here with this parameter, I could increase the value if I wanted that line work to be a bit stronger for this part of the model. Now at the moment, the contour width is being measured in pixels, and that is the default measuring system. But if you'd like it to be measured in the same units as what the rest of the scene is, then under the advanced drop-down, you can disable the contour width in pixels option. This will then change this parameter to use the same units as the rest of the scene, and it is probably recommended just to manipulate what that value is, as you may find that contour width takes over the entire model. With the contour width now being measured in the scene units, it means it will be the same thickness regardless of the resolution of your final image. If you expand the contour width, you'll see there are two additional options within there. The first one is the outline width multiplier, and this affects the perimeter of that 3D part that the Toon material is applied to. And you can manipulate how much this line is going to be multiplied by that initial contour width. So in this case, it's going to multiply 0.2 by 2.5, and that's then the overall thickness around that outside. The option underneath is the part width multiplier. And if we tick this one, you'll find that some more lines appear between the individual parts that will use this Toon material type. And this is also being driven by this interior edge contour option. So if I disable that one, you'll see the effect it has. You'll see that the detailing of those parts has now disappeared, and the focus is purely on that perimeter line work. If I enable that feature again, you'll see that the detailing has come back into place, and it's probably more suitable to how you want to represent your models. Now, if you find there is some detail that still hasn't quite come through on those interior contour lines, you can manipulate this contour angle. So the contour angle controls the number of interior contour lines in that Toon sketch, and the value determines the angle of the curvature where a line will appear. So if I decrease this value, you'll see that more lines appear, showcasing more of that detailing of those 3D models. Next, we have the shadow strength option. Now, at the moment, this is set to 0, so it is not paying attention to the HDRI environment that I've currently got within here. But if I increase this slightly, we'll start to see there's some shading has come onto those models where light may be not quite hitting it. Again, if you don't see any changes happening when you increase the shadow strength, do make sure you have the environment shadows ticked if you're using HDRI lighting. And if you are using physical lights such as area lights, spotlights or IES, make sure you have the light source shadows enabled. This will then give you a true representation of where those shadows should be. Next one down we've got is the transparency option. So if any of your parts are exterior casing and you need to show what's inside, or there may be hiding parts of a mechanism that you want to be able to showcase, you can increase this transparency value. The transparency only affects the solid colour of the Toon material. It does not affect the line work, so you'll still be able to see those sharp, crisp lines around the outside. And if you find those contour lines aren't quite as crisp as you want, you can increase the contour quality within there to make them a bit smoother. The lower this number, the more sketch-like the contour lines will look. So there are all the settings that you can do from the material edit option. There are other settings you can manipulate within the material graph itself. So I'm just going to open up that material graph and then just reposition the model so you can see it. And one of those things you can change is how the shadow looks. Now you will find this material type already in the material library itself, but for the purpose of this workshop, I'm just going to show you how they created it. So I've brought in a brush texture into the material graph, and I'm going to connect that up to the Toon node, making sure it's attached to the shadow option. I'm going to double click this texture node and then hit the letter C on my keyboard, because then that enables the color preview for this texture. So any changes I make will be a lot clearer on the model. So initially what I'm going to do is just change the mapping type to camera. So regardless of the positioning of the model, we can see that that texture is still always going to be facing the same direction. And then just to make it a little bit clearer and how I might want the final look to be, I'm just going to start to manipulate some of those other size and mapping parameters just to add in more brushstroke effects. So when you're happy with the positioning, select the node again and hit the letter C to disable that color preview, and then you can then see how it has affected the shadow options within the Toon. So rather than it being a solid color, it now looks like I've just done some kind of coloring in with the pencil. So they're kind of some of the different settings that you can use for the Toon material. When it comes to when you might use the Toon material in your design process, one kind of key stage is at the concept point of the design process, where you may not want to focus necessarily on what materials are going to be a part of the model. You more just want to show off the design work. It's a quick material that you can easily apply, and you can showcase the different detailings within there. You can also use this material to help create any technical illustrations. Coupled up with the camera options, you can have some orthographic side, front and top views, but it also allows you to create those perspective views and maybe some 3D interactive elements, so that whoever is looking at this model can easily see detailing and positioning of all the parts within there. And that is the Toon material. Thank you very much for listening.